and welcome to another episode of the Backroad, In Between Media's fantasy NASCAR show. My name's Elliot Hicks. With me, we got an XL Backroad tonight. I honestly wasn't expecting to be here. Luckily, I was able to move my schedule around. So we've got
dedication. Look at that dedication.
So we've got myself, and we've got four analysts this week. We've got our two usual suspects, Seth Woolcock and Rod Villagmomez. How's it going tonight, guys?
Outstanding.
I am excellent. You guys already know Ross Chastain with the W. We also have the Busch Light fishing cans making their first appearance on the show this year. And a DFS win for the Backroad for the guys here in between media. Took first home in a contest. So all around good vibes here, Elliot.
Man, one heck of a week for sure. We'll talk about that in a bit, but we got to introduce our two guests first. We have Matthew Parvin, Parv Gang, and Jacob JKL from the Left Turn Colt here joining us. Thanks, guys. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you for having me.
I have a feeling this is going to be a real fun one. Jacob, I think you're muted, but that's all right. We'll get that fixed up in between as we are going to get rolling right away with In the Rear View. So since this is a bi-weekly show, before we get to the fun of Circuit of the Americas, we'll talk about Atlanta, or Atlanta Super Speedway as we've calling it now. The new Atlanta configuration race for the first time. William Byron got the win, and it was quite the interesting race there in the newly reconfigured Atlanta. Let's hand it off to our guests first. What'd you guys think of the race?
Go ahead, Parv.
So yeah, I really enjoyed the new Atlanta configuration. It was a really fun race. I think a lot of people who were there in person probably enjoyed it a lot more. I was one of the people who got to watch it through television. So overall, I thought it was a really fun race, and I think William Byron just had the best car the whole entire time, and there's basically no chance of stopping him at that. So I really enjoyed it.
Man, I was in Las Vegas during the Atlanta race, which is there. Yeah, I was living it up, gambling my money away. I put all of my $50 on Kevin Harvick because I really thought that he was going to get the job done. And
made worse bets. That's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the MGM sports room. I was with a bunch of other NASCAR fans. At least I think they were. They could have been watching the horse racing. I don't know. But when Kevin Harvick hit the wall, I was the only one that jumped up and screamed shit. And that's what it was. But I really enjoyed the race. I love the idea of making it like a super speedway. And Willie B, obviously, I've been saying for at least a year and a half now that he's going to be probably the top dog at Hendrick pretty soon. That's just my opinion, but
that is a hot take.
Okay,
we'll get to that a little later.
You're mixing it up. I like it.
Love that for sure. All right, we'll go Rod and then Seth. Your thoughts on Atlanta?
To be able to watch these cars go 2-3 wide the whole race long, it just when we get single file at Atlanta, it just gets dull, and this was not dull at all. I don't know that there was a moment where we were saying to ourselves, this is not a good race, because there was always something happening anywhere on the track. And I said before, kudos to the camera operators for finding that stuff all over the track, because there was not an opportunity for us to go, this is kind of dull, because those camera operators were finding the battles, and there was a lot of them. So to keep up with them and to be able to keep up with the entire race the whole time, and just to enjoy the race from green to checker, was, I got to say, man, NASCAR is doing some fantastic things this season. And we talked about it before. I think they blew their load last year, saying that last year was the greatest season in NASCAR history. This, my friends, is making a run for it.
I love it, man.
Blew their load. I love that. I love that saying. That's a good saying. I'm going to start using that.
We're only 5 minutes in. This is for sure going to be the wildest battle we've had so far. Seth, what thoughts on Atlanta?
Yeah, this really did feel like a super speedway. Watching the race, betting on it, if you had any fantasy implications in it. Corey LaJoie ended up with a top 5, guys. I think that tells you just about all you need to know. But Rowdy, Hamlin, both Dillon brothers, all outside the top 28 here. So it really kind of was a crappy one if you had any DFS investment or just fantasy investment in general. It was really hard to predict for sure.
I had both Dillon brothers. I had Kyle Larson, and I had I think 3 like for 2 straight weeks in the fantasy league that we're in, like those 3 drivers, D and Nat, that just screwed me up.
Yeah. Yeah, it was tough, but I think, that's what you have to expect here with super speedways, whether it's Talladega, Daytona, and now Atlanta. You kind of just have to expect, like, if I have any sort of DFS fund in my budget, I'm not going to be spending it at these super speedway tracks. Elliot?
Yeah, going to be tough for sure there. The mini super speedway at Atlanta was fun. I think that COTA was even wilder. That was a great race. Wild last lap that I think has to rival Watkins Glen 2012, I believe it was. Ambrose, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski for one of the best road course last laps out there. Battle between Alex Bowman, AJ Allmendinger, and the winner, Ross Chastain. Seth, I have to lead off with you here. You kind of have sworn off having a favorite driver, haven't found the right guy yet since Jeff Gordon retired. Closest you've come is Ross Chastain. We've heard some good stories, and it has just wrapped up perfectly. Gets his first win, finally, at Circuit of the Americas.
Oh, man. I mean, if it ever had to come to, like, a full-blown conclusion where, like, I have not found a favorite driver since the Jeff Gordon days. And, I've always liked Ross Chastain. I followed him for a couple of years now. And it comes down to this. And, I mean, the guy did everything in this. He came from the back of the pack, comes up to the front, maintains the lead for the majority of the race. He wins stage 2 if he doesn't give it to Denny Hamlin there, but he smartly does that. And then just a wild last lap. Credit to Alex Bowman for, being in the right place at the right time. But, man, Ross Chastain has some balls on him. I mean, he does not care who AJ Allmendinger thinks he is or is, and he just went for it. So happy for the guy, happy for a lot of people out there who've been riding in fantasy. He's been the best driver in fantasy. I think he's the clear 101 going forward and probably my favorite driver. I cashed out some of my DFS earnings to buy a little Melon Man gear. So we're gonna go ahead and make that investment.
Can you put the beer away? You've already drank way too much. You are way high. My God.
We're just getting warmed up here, folks. We're just getting warmed up.
Man, Ross, it's so crazy about Ross too, because Ross has such a crazy roller coaster career. I mean, he makes his way into that Xfinity Series ride with Chip Ganassi, and then DC Solar's like, hey, we're going to do some fraudulent shit. And then he loses his ride. The Xfinity Series program gets killed. He drops all the way down to the Truck Series. He goes to Nice Motorsports. Then he jumps back up, and he's like, all right, I'm going to go with Colleague, man. And, we really didn't see that Ross that we're seeing now with Colleague. And honestly, that was kind of at the beginning of Colleague's dominance. So I'm thinking that maybe Ross wasn't getting that funding that he needed. I mean, he's still running good because Ross does great and bad stuff. I mean, he's just a great driver. And then he gets the dream job at Chip Ganassi. And then Chip Ganassi's like, hey, man, remember that time you lost your ride in the 42 car? Well, deja vu, brother, because I'm selling the team. And then it's like I found out this weekend, actually, that he wasn't part of the Chip Ganassi deal. So I was like, what? Like, I thought that was the whole reason he went over there. But that was actually a totally separate deal. I think Trackhouse, I think old Pitbull and Justin Marks made a good decision with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty clear at this point for sure. Parv, Rod, any thoughts on COTA?
I absolutely loved it. As much as I loved Atlanta, I really did. And to watch those cars fan out the way they did all weekend long. I mean, you saw that too. And just, the cars were running the entire length of the track all the way around. And there were times where you didn't even know if they took that wide turn that they'd be able to even cut back inside to make the move into, especially turn 1, where that last thing happened, and it just all the way down to the last lap. And I had Bowman. I picked Bowman to win the race outright. So when that very last incident happened, I threw something at the screen. So I'm going to bill NASCAR for my television.
I'm a Bowman fan. I didn't even throw anything at my team.
No, I know. Look, I was frustrated because my co-host of the other show that I do picked Chastain to win. And that was the one week that I didn't pick Chastain. I picked Bowman. So, yeah, frustrating. But look, the overall race itself, like I said, these cars, man, how are just sturdy are these cars? It was amazing to me. With Logano especially, when he got into the mess over there in the kitty litter.
Gravel, yeah.
Yeah. Like most of the time that would tear the car up, right? But he was just spitting that stuff out like he was a vacuum cleaner and just kept going. So I'm impressed, man. NASCAR has done some great things to these cars.
And the cool thing is, early in the season, we had talked about the tires being flat and guys getting stuck on the racetrack for 4 laps after they spun being a huge problem, and that hasn't been a concern. I don't know if guys are spinning out less or what happened, but nice to hear that really hasn't been an issue.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed COTA. I had high hopes for it last year, but obviously with the rain and everything, my hopes were basically crushed. But this year, it's like there's going to be no rain. It's going to be a fantastic race. And that's exactly what we got. And Ross Chastain has been the most consistent driver the entire season, and he was bound to get a victory at some point, and we finally saw it this weekend. And that whole entire last lap, I was watching it through my laptop and everything, and I saw Dinger like put him out of the way, and I was like, "You motherfucker!" I was like, "Dinger, I swear to God!" And then Ross came back and won the race. And last season on Love Turtle, I was a huge Ross doubter. Like Jacob and Cody were all in the middle of me, and I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And then this season, I was like, "You know what? He's pretty good." And then this whole entire week just solidified his dominance. And, I think Trackhouse is literally like one of the best teams in NASCAR right now. And, we're going to see further on this season how great Trackhouse is going to be.
Yeah, I think you're right, Parv, because they really did dominate this race. Suarez won once, stage one. But shame on you, man. Shame on you, Parv. Like, this guy was out there getting top tens like consistently last summer. Like, he had a streak going. Elliot, like every week on the show, I was talking up Ross Chastain last season. I'm glad to hear my guy JKL down here showing a little love.
Yeah, I admitted I was wrong last night. I feel so bad.
You wonder why Left Turn Cult sells shirts that say "fuck Parv." You know we sell that, right? Like, we sell that shirt for a reason.
I did it.
That's reason number one right there. He hated Ross.
Seth, I think you're gonna have to take some more of that DFS money and maybe grab one of those next, right?
Gladly.
Before we move on here, just an ode to NASCAR for how great a choice going to Circuit of the Americas has been. Last year, we had, a complete shit show with all the rain and everything. We got a full weekend of great racing. All 3 series put on a pretty good race. It was the first truck race I've had emotionally investment in about 10 years.
Same,
so it was a fun race there. Xfinity race was pretty good. Cup race was great. Great weekend there, and I hope that we keep going back there for years and years to come.
Elliot, real quick, do you think it is like I think maybe outside of the Indy road course, I have a soft spot for that road course. I think it's hands down the best road course in the circuit right now. Does anyone else have any other opinions on that?
I would say that right now it's the most exciting too. I mean, just watching the race pan out, and you never know because these guys, they can't. I mean, they're cutting corners left and right. They're, like I said, they're using the entire track. It's so crazy to watch them use every bit of real estate on that track, where you can't necessarily do that at Watkins Glen. You can't necessarily do that in Charlotte or even Daytona road course. So yeah, COTA definitely. Everything's bigger in Texas, and there's a reason.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy like the really like sharp turns that are in COTA, because a lot of the other road courses that are in NASCAR aren't that sharp. Because I don't remember what turn it was, but in one of the turns you literally are going off the track at that point because of how tight. Unless you can like somehow maneuver your car, I think it's one of the best tracks that NASCAR has right now, especially when it comes to the road course. I still love Sonoma and Watkins Glen. Those are, historical NASCAR road courses, and I think those are great. But COTA's making its run for its money as the best one.
They finally got rid of the carousel of Sonoma. I was so against when they did that. I was like, no, I don't like that. And then they ran it for a few years, and now they smartened up. They're like, all right, we got some cars that we can beat and bang with now. Let's get rid of that carousel. So I'm really excited for Sonoma this year.
That's your track, Rod. That's your track out there.
I'll be there again. I'll definitely be there again.
Rod will be out there in the outfield with a margarita or a wine.
So long as they don't see me. I was going to say, because I've got the media pass. I'm pretty sure they don't want to see me with that. But
It'll be interesting. We'll look forward to that here. Maybe get some good content for IBT. The one thing that I want to see is this car supposedly is going to perform the best out of any recent car on road courses. So we'll revisit that when we get through all of these with this car, because I think we could see more and more really entertaining road course races with this next gen vehicle. But all right, so these two races did shake up our tire tiers a little bit. Let's see what happened to them. Let's move on to the next segment here.
Okay, I just want to throw this out really quickly. To some people, friends of the Left Turn cult, did that guy not look like Dalton Good on that clip? It looked just like him. I just realized that. I thought that you guys.
There is so many people that we claim is Dalton Good. I think Noah Gragson was him one time. I think Chandler Smith is him now. And Dalton doesn't see it, but yeah, I think I saw it a little bit of him.
He does look a lot like him. I was sitting there kind of like peeking at him, and I was like, "Is that Dalton?"
Sorry, Elliot.
No, that's all good. It's all good. It's all about the fun here. But yeah, so we do have a new undisputed 101 out of the three of us. We got rankings from myself, Seth, and Rod this week. And I believe Chastain was number one in all of them. I believe he was the unanimous number one. So the number one at number one, then Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, and Kyle Larson still holding on by dear life to tier number one here. I'll start with this one and put on my Ally Purple tinted glasses and give the Alex Bowman analysis of the week here. You normally grab from me. The one thing that's been missing for Bowman is consistency. And this season, we've seen that. You know, before he'd have a good finish, he'd have a win, and then he'd run 20th for 3 weeks. He's run consistently well, put himself in position. He's fourth in the points right now without including the wins and all that, which I think is probably the highest he's ever been. So it's been the consistency for the 48 team that I believe is why, as a collective, we bumped him up to near the top of tier one when he had mostly been, you know, maybe high tier two, usually low tier two. Bowman moving his way up because of that consistency. And I mean, again, with my Ally Purple tinted glasses on, I'm hoping it continues, but certainly fantasy owners hope it continues too.
Yeah, and he's still not getting the respect he deserves, whether it be in
he
draft
never
teams.
will, which is a sad thing. But
I know, but I like the analysis there, though, Elliot. He's definitely been way more consistent than we've seen in the past. So, like, even for him to show up on a road course here, I had him in a lineup, but I don't think a lot of people had a lot of faith in him.
No, I really didn't. I didn't think he'd have a chance in hell to win, but after seeing the Truck Series race, I was like, all right, this guy maybe can run a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got some solid drivers here in tier one. Parv and JKL down there. Your analysis on our top six.
I think it's no doubt that Ross is number one. That's pretty much a given. I could argue that maybe Kyle Larson is not tier one. There's a driver that we'll get to in tier two that I think should be up there. But I think Kyle Larson shouldn't be in there. I think Ryan Blaney should definitely be up there. It's just his pit crew is stupid.
You're telling me, man. You're telling me.
And then obviously Alex Bowman's fine because he's been good. Chase Elliott, you know, I don't really care for him, but I can't go out and say he's a terrible driver, but he's been doing good this season too. Tyler Reddick is obviously the best RCR driver. Sorry to you, Cooper, if you're watching. But yeah, I think the only person that shouldn't be on the top tier list is Kyle Larson.
I never thought that I would say this, but I agree with Parv.
Listen, just first.
When I got told that I was on the show with Parv tonight, I thought it was hilarious because I actually hate Parv. I hate his guts. But yeah, I think Kyle should be dropped, and I have my eye on a tier two driver that I think should be up there, and I'm going to save it because I'm wondering if Parv and me are going to agree twice. Because if so, I'm leaving.
We'll save it when we get to tier two here. We'll wrap up with these tier one guys first. I think for Larson, you know, I still had him, you know, lower in tier one. I forget exactly where you, Seth and Rod, had him, but I think he's up there still, mostly just because of I think the respect, and B, he's had some bad finishes because of bad luck that weren't necessarily of his own doing. You know, Phoenix, I think he was going to end up top five, and something happened with the motor. So if it keeps running like this, maybe next time we'll be down to tier two. I think right now he still has enough respect to stay tier one.
I didn't see Rod's individual rankings, but Rod must have tanked that shit out of Kyle Larson because I had him at the 103 still, just straight out of respect. Like, you have to give this guy some props. Like, I realize, you know, he's been awful this last trimester. He's, you know, 20 something when you look at fantasy points scored. Rod, was that your rationale here, man?
So yeah, I mean, look, I won't spoil where he was at in tier 2 for you, but I definitely wasn't in tier 1. And here's the thing with Kyle Larson. We can't have the glasses on us and say he was great last season, because this is a new season with a new car, with a new everything. And yeah, bad luck is bad luck, but he's also not helped himself out much either in that capacity. He's had some incidences where we saw him kind of push a little hard or try to take a little. So I don't know if it's not that he's as comfortable in this car as he was last season, but something's off. And we have to recognize that and look at it for face value, because we can't just go, yeah, Kyle Larson was so dominant last season, but then that hasn't shown up. And it's the same reason why Chastain is number 1, right? I mean, we can't go off of last season for Ross Chastain. Yes, okay, Seth, I know he was great, but he's really killing it now. And if we went based on last year, he wouldn't be a tier 1 driver. But this season, he's kicking ass. And so we have to give him his respect. So in the same aspect, we got to kind of put Kyle Larson back in his place until he proves otherwise.
Right, and the respect thing was not all toward last year. I mean, he has a win this year. He's run up front. That's also what I was talking about as well. It wasn't all just looking back on the old gen car. But yeah, I do see your point there. Larson definitely could be headed down. And I think Tyler Reddick, I mean, we haven't talked about as much the last couple of weeks because of Chastain's and your Suarez's and your underperforming big drivers and things like that. I don't see that 8 car moving from tier 1 all season. I don't know what you guys think, but I think he's going to stay in that top 6 the whole year.
I 100% agree with you, Elliot. 97 laps led for the number 8 car. That's top 6 right now. He's one of the dominant guys out there. He's had a couple bad luck races here as well. But, I mean, he was top 5 almost the whole time at COTA. So he has versatility on all these tracks.
All right, so your tier 1 guys pretty well locked in, but apparently some shuffling that should be happening as we move down to tier 2, which features Joey Logano, Chase Briscoe, William Byron, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, and Daniel Suarez. All right, let's end the suspense here. Matt, Jacob, which guy should be up in tier 1 that's down here in tier 2?
So I want to start off by saying that I love that you put Daniel Suarez in tier 2. That makes me extremely happy.
The guy led every lap in stage 1. Probably would have fought with his teammate up there if it hadn't been for him getting spun out on the first restart there.
You could argue, honestly, with Kyle Busch being tier 2, tier 3, I think, especially with how he's been, him and his crew chief obviously aren't getting along. There's just been a lot of miscommunication there. Martin Truex, I think with the next coming up races, I think he might even move up to tier 1 for you all. And obviously, Joe Logano, he's about basically top 2 in points. But I think the person that should be in tier 1 is the other Hendrick driver. I honestly think that William Byron should be up there in tier 1 because we were talking on Left Turn Cult last night. I think Jacob was when he brought it up that the 2 top people in Hendrick right now are William Byron and Alex Bowen, just basically because of how great they've been the past 2 weeks. I think honestly it should be William Byron instead of Kyle Larson in a tier 1.
So we didn't agree that time, which is a good thing. I was going to say Chase Briscoe. I'm really liking Briscoe this year. From Briscoe's last season to this season, I mean, it's a totally different person. This car really suits him. I'm going to go ahead and make a bold prediction right now. I think Briscoe is going to be a round of 8 appearance.
Okay.
All right.
I like it.
Pretty hot take also, but that's
honestly, you should. You probably have good odds on that right now. Honestly, too. I would take the odds. I like that bet, JKL.
I do too. I think it's money, man.
So I have Briscoe. I have Briscoe in the first spot of that second tier, and really the only reason that I didn't have him up against Joey Logano is that Joey Logano obviously has run a little better points wise, and I feel like he's a little bit higher there. But I mean, I literally could switch him and still be okay with that, and have Briscoe at the lower end of tier 1 and Logano at the top of tier 2. But I will say, Parv, I have Byron in tier 1, so I do have him.
Buttering up the Parv over here, Rod. Buttering up the Parv.
I gotta make friends.
No, honestly though, I like the call with Briscoe, guys. I mean, he's dangerous. He once again is leading laps pretty much at every race. He has over 100 laps led. He's top 4 in laps led, and he's starting 9.7 is his start average this year. So he's kind of worthless in DFS right now because you have to pay so much for him. But in our type of redraft fantasy league, he's a great target. And Rod, you even jumped up on him like you took him, I think early, realistically, like around the 2-3 turn last time. So you were high on him last segment as well, and it paid off for you.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just know that when you see momentum, it's best to jump on it, especially in NASCAR, especially this season when it's hard to find the kind of momentum that you need, because these drivers, a lot of them, you barely like what what car is in front. So if you can seize that momentum, you got to jump on it.
One other curious thing that I've noticed with these rankings the last couple of weeks is it's been the old wily vets that have been falling down rather than coming up.
Yeah.
It seems like with this next gen car, I don't think that these guys are not going to learn it, but I think, Martin Truex has been in Cup since 2005, Kyle Busch about the same year, Denny Hamlin since 2006 is still not performing well. We'll get to him later. I mean, part of that is just a Toyota thing. I just threw out all Gibbs drivers there. But the point of that is different shifter, different driving style. I mean, Kyle Busch spun out apparently by himself twice on the last lap at COTA. So there's just elements that I think these vets are not quite getting. I'm sure they will, and it wouldn't surprise me to see 4 veterans in the championship 4 come the end of the year. But right now, maybe trending downward. We'll have to see if that continues. All right, tier number 3. Next, we've got Kevin Harvick, Austin Cindric, Kurt Busch, Christopher Bell, Eric Almirola, and Eric Jones. Pretty fair, I'd say. What do you guys think?
I think you're right on the money with that one. That's a pretty good tier.
I think so too. I think the best performing Toyota driver of this season so far has been Kurt Busch. But basically, when it comes to, like, at the end of the race, who is ahead of everybody, it's usually Kurt Busch and he's been like the best one so far. So I think for him, maybe put him above Kyle Busch. That's how I would do it. And this is me coming from a Kyle Busch fan that he's been performing better than his brother this season so far.
I will say though, Harv, you say that, and you're definitely right. Kurt Busch is top 5 in average finish right now, so you definitely have that. But his running average is not that great. He's finding a way to move up at the end of races, while Kyle Busch is finding a way, spinning on last laps. How he had to recover a couple weeks ago, make it back on the lead lap, right there at the end. So I think Kurt Busch is a little bit of a devil in disguise here. I think if you draft him at his current ADP, which is, mid-3rd round here, I don't know if you're going to get that value just because he seems a little lucky here at the end.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Seth. Honestly, I think that's perfect right where it's at. And I hate Kyle Busch, so
I hate Parv too.
God, I hate you so much, Parv.
I love you, Jacob.
It's not working, man.
So yeah, tier 3 about where we usually have it. Guys who don't necessarily excite you, but guys who are not terrible pickups. Tier 4 is pretty intriguing to me this week. We've got Austin Dillon, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace, Chris Buescher, and Justin Haley in the 31. And the one guy who I'm looking at here as a nice deep effing value pick is Brad Keselowski. And it's because of this penalty that just was incurred to the number 6 team. I forget exactly how much it was in terms of points lost, suspensions, things like that.
I think it was 100 he lost.
Yeah.
Whoa, really?
It put him so far down in the standings. I think that he's the 2nd worst full-time guy at the moment. There's 0 chance of the 6 team making the playoffs anymore without a W. So the 6 team, I think you're going to see them take way more swings at wins. You're going to see them take risks. Yeah. You're going to see them go balls to the wall to try to get that playoff spot. You may get burnt, and you probably will get burnt more often than not based on the Keselowski races this season. Yeah, you got to keep half an eye on, especially I know that it's not the next 2 races. Talladega's not too far away. You've got some interesting tracks there. Keselowski could really get you some value in the next few weeks.
Yeah, because Keselowski is under a lot of people right now. He's under people like David Reagan. He's Cody Ware, Harrison Burton, all these people.
I think Boris Said, who only ran the 1 race, has almost caught up to him.
Well, here's the thing. Keselowski's 163 points back, and Boris Said is 197. So, yeah, there's not a whole lot of consistency between those two.
Yeah, this tier, I think tier 4 is perfect where it is. I mean, Jacob's the Roush's bad guy on our podcast. He says it no matter how terrible they do every week. He'll always say that, but I think this tier list is pretty much where it should be.
Honestly, Brad should be on tier 1, first spot, in my opinion. Here's the thing. This tier is pretty spot on, in my opinion. It's crazy, though, because like I do think that Roush is going to get a win this year. I am almost certain it's going to get a win. Now, it's definitely going to be at Talladega. That's the track that they're going to win at. And other than that, I'm not sure, but it will definitely be him and Busher. I mean, they showed that they had the speed and the teamwork to do it in the duels this year.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking
it may take till that summer race at Daytona right before the playoff cutoff, but I feel like one of these guys are going to get into the playoffs.
Oh yeah, for sure.
My biggest thing, and really the only difference that I had was Hamlin being as high as he is in this tier. We're on a full Hamlin fade as of right now. Yes. And
that's
look,
being generous fade, you know.
Right, and it's just
taking him and throwing him in the dumpster, even aside from Martinsville's comments. We'll put just on racing merit this year, not anything to do with that.
Ricky Bobby style. Yeah, I don't want to see him in anywhere. In fact, I don't know if I have him low enough, to be honest with you. It's sad because Hamlin has always been a guy that's been up there, but he's one of those veterans that you talked about, Elliot, that just fading to the back and not getting any of this. Like, it just doesn't look like any of this is translating to his driving skills. So until we see anything from Hamlin at all, like I'm not even taking him in redraft and DFS. I'm not betting on him. Like, sorry, Denny.
I just want to say I will give up hope on Denny Hamlin if he does not perform these next 3 weeks. He has the resume at these upcoming tracks. He's a short track guy. I think he can maybe put it together at these tracks, grab a top 5 or 2. I definitely hear what you're saying, though, Rod. I mean, when you look at him in points right now, he's outside the top 20, well outside the top 20. But, you know, he did do pretty bad at Daytona due to some bad luck. So I'm not going to write him off completely yet. If there is one, like I look at this as just like the veteran tier that have not performed so far this season, guys who are falling back. The one kid, though, who is an up-and-coming driver who's made his way into tier 4 for the first time, Justin Haley, man. I mean, this guy has more fantasy points scored than Kyle Larson on the season. I mean, Justin Haley, back-to-back top 12 finishes. I like what Haley's bringing. Had some bad luck early on in the season, but I think he's a guy, if you can grab him as your 5th, 6th driver, whether you're playing DFS, redraft, whatever that may be, I think he's a really solid guy to sneak in there.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, I called out Justin Haley and was like, man, you're still in tier 5. I'm wondering when you're going to get up there. Certainly Colleague showing it, even though he was, you know, the car we focused on less from Colleague in that cup race last week.
He heard you, Elliot.
He must have. All right, tier number 5 up next. We got Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Cole Custer, the rotating number 16 car this week with AJ Allmendinger in it, of course. And I believe he's back in it for the following race as well. Then we got Michael McDowell, Ty Dillon, and shout out to poor old Corey LaJoie there. I'm pretty sure this is the first time he's made our tier list. He's always got a couple of points, you know, middling down in the receiving votes category. Had a good run there in Atlanta. I don't think I put him in my tiers, but he's in this week, so we'll give him credit there. Corey LaJoie in that all 7 car.
Parv.
Those are drivers. Those are drivers. All drive cars.
Yeah, I don't think there's really any argument whatsoever about this tier 5. I mean, these are very low-ranking drivers. You know, you might see Michael McDowell be good on a super speedway. Like a lot of these are your super speedway drivers, is what I would say. You know, they perform well.
I don't even know that you could put Cole Custer in that category, but we'll see. Yeah, if you're doing fantasy analysis and you're wondering what to think of these 6 guys, that nice little 5-10 seconds of silence we had, that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, I'm not arguing about this tier at all, but I do got a question. What has stood out about Ty Dillon to you all?
Listen. Listen, I've been riding the Ty Dillon bandwagon for months, and like this, I didn't see your guys' rankings, Rod and Elliot, but they must be whack. Like, this is just an effed up tier right here. Ty Dillon is the clear, like, he could belong in tier 4 in my opinion. Like, Ty Dillon has been consistent outside of this last race in DFS points. He before this last race, he was averaging over 30 DFS points. Like, he's not even in the same league as these other guys. So I completely agree. That was the one thing. I was just holding my breath over here, like getting ready to just like explode. So thank you.
Tear into that. Yeah. I mean, that's the one driver I was looking at, and I was like, man, he is pretty low right now. I do expect Cole Custer to hop up the tiers soon. He's in the right tier right now, but I expect it to happen soon. I'm putting a lot of faith in Custer. He's going to break my heart. I know he is.
He's another one of those guys that I called out. Stewart Haas Racing has been on an upswing, and Cole Custer just has not quite caught on the back of that train yet. And I think that he'll have a much longer leash because of his dad's role at Stewart Haas Racing. But I mean, eventually there's so much up and coming talent. If he doesn't get it together at some point, you're going to have to boot his ass out of that 41 car. I'm sorry. Cole Custer seems like a nice guy. He had Xfinity success. If it's not going to come together, it's not going to come together.
I mean, you can say that with him having like people in Stewart Haas, but you can also say the same thing for Austin Dillon. His granddad is the owner of that car.
That's fair, but I mean, Austin Dillon, he's put up multiple Cup wins. He's had
easy part, easy on
early on.
God, I hate you so much.
Early on in his career, with all the Austin Dillon slander, he got the Daytona 500 win. You can call that a fluke if you want. Won that race at, I believe it was Texas a couple years back. I get eventually putting a better driver in there. He's a guy who is, he's bought himself at least a couple of more years. We need to see more from Custer than one good restart at a track that we don't even race at anymore for him to keep his ride.
All I'm gonna
that was brutal, man.
All I'm gonna say is Rod
that was. I mean, you wouldn't run that race without that restart.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get some respect for Ty Dillon by next episode? I mean, you guys must not even had him ranked with how low he is.
I did not have him ranked.
I pull it up. I don't think I had him either.
No, I don't.
God,
the guy, he's got no top 10s. He's got no top 5s. Like at least the guys in, they're
got like 4 top 20s, yo. He's got like 4 top 20s, yo.
I had him third to last. I did have him ranked.
Yeah, he just seems to find himself out of contention in ways that I don't know. Top 20, yeah, you're impressed me, but that don't impress me much, as Shania Twain once said.
I think you should be at least on the top of tier 5 if you don't want to do anything higher than that. You should be at least the top of tier 5.
I'm just gonna keep drafting him in DFS because I've been doing it every week and it has paid off substantially. He's like sub 8% owned, so give me some Ty Dillon, boys.
Oh, I'm just saying Martinsville's coming up, and we've seen what he does on tracks like that.
Yes,
Bulldozer, brother.
At the clash, he wrecked everybody but the pace car, and then queued over something. I forget.
He will not hit the brakes once, guaranteed.
That'll be fun to see, and that's actually a perfect segue into our next segment, the Horizon Forecast, as we look ahead.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
Shout out, as always, to Ray Dunlap, wherever you are. Thanks for that. So the next two races, Richmond and the Martinsville night race. We'll start with Richmond, a track that has just been a snooze fest. I mean, I went back to Richmond in the most recent race in the playoffs. That was my first race in 10 years. I had a great weekend. Cup race was boring. Last 100 laps, complete snooze fest. I think this new car, though, could really help that track. And, of course, Martinsville is Martinsville. Give me some thoughts on these next couple of short track races, guys.
Parv, go ahead.
I mean, are we going by like who we thinks are like performing well? Is this kind of like, or like,
is it just any sort of general thoughts as what you think the racing might be? Who are some guys that you might be up front? Very general. Give us some thoughts.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So I think, it's short track. We got like 3 basically short tracks in the next 3 weeks, which would be great to see. I think there's one driver who, in my mind, I think is going to be performing well at both these tracks coming up. One of them. Well, it's going to be Martin Truex Jr., I think, is the one to watch for both weeks coming up, especially in Martinsville. Because he got the win I think he got the win last year in Martinsville. I think this is where we'll start to see Toyota actually start to get their butts into gear and start performing better than like what they have in the past few weeks. So I think the main driver to watch these next 2 weeks is Martin Truex Jr. on both tracks. But I did have my prediction as a sleeper for this week is Kevin Harvick.
Ty Dillon.
I think Cody Ware. I think Cody Ware is going to go into victory lane this week.
Now, wasn't that funny there? I feel like there was about 2 seconds as we were leading into this next gen car where everyone was like, maybe Cody Ware and Rick Ware can do well, and that has been completely disproven. But.
Yep.
Yeah, that ended real fast.
Yeah, I think watch out for Kevin Harvick this week, and then Martin Truex Jr. these both weeks.
But here's the thing with Kevin Harvick is that last season I kept saying, watch out for Kevin Harvick, watch out for Kevin, because this track, Kevin Harvick dominates at this track. And it would seem like every single week I was saying Kevin Harvick dominates at this track and all of it. Yeah. Then he go bad. And so I can't say it this season. I want to say it. I want to be the one that says it, but unfortunately he keeps not doing anything. And then also going into next week or this coming race, I said full fade to Denny Hamlin, but damn it, he makes it hard to full fade because he's been so damn good at this next track, right? So I may have to eat my words. I dug into the research more, and Hamlin is the name that pops up with this track the most, basically. So I don't know. I mean, I may have to publicly retract my full fade, but I still don't know if I trust him. He's going to Harvick me if I can make Harvick into a verb. I preach his dominance at a track, and then he shows up and doesn't drive his car.
I've got no trust in Denny Hamlin, but if there are going to be tracks, he's going to pick it up. It's these races. He's won a bunch at Richmond, and he would have had the most recent Martinsville win if it weren't for a certain hack in a purple number 48 car.
12 wins between Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and Denny Hamlin at this track. So if there's a track the veterans should show up, it is Richmond. But keep in mind, Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, they've also won here recently. Those are the only two drivers in the field, Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, who have won at this track that are under the age of 30. So keep that in mind.
The scary thing is, though, what if those vets don't perform in these races? Then it's going to be
then it's full fade. Then it's full fade.
5-alarm fire for sure.
Yeah,
it's Ross Chastain season, baby.
Maybe Suarez season. Jacob, I'll let you make your point, and then I have a sweeping declaration before we move ahead.
Ross Chastain ain't a bad pick, but I'm glad that old Rod said Denny Hamlin because that's who I'm thinking takes Richmond. I really do think he's going to take Richmond. He's in a pretty bad spot in points. I think he's eyeing this track. He's got it circled on the calendar. Martin Truex Jr. is good to look at. Blaney's pretty good to look at. Martinsville was. I'm calling it now. It's going to be somebody nuts who wins that race. I think it's going to be a petty GMS driver. Sadly, I don't think it's going to be Todd Dillon. I'm sorry. I wish it was, but I do think Eric Jones is going to grab that win.
Oh, I like it.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, he's performed well. Something Seth reminded me of is that apparently I called Ross Chastain was going to be a winner by the next time we did a podcast. That also was me thinking I wasn't going to be here this week, so I was giving him a month. He proved me right in 2 races, so good for him. My hot take here is Trackhouse teammate Daniel Suarez is going to be a winner by the next time I'm on. That maybe in 2 weeks, maybe in 4 weeks, we'll find out. The 99 car will have gone to victory lane as well. So now we're going to keep looking ahead to these 2 races with our down-home DFS bets of the week. Gentlemen, I am sure that you all have some good picks that you're some good hills to die on here. Seth, we'll start with you. What do you got for the next coming weeks?
So I just want to say thank you to Rod, Elliot, our DFS guys who've showed me how to play DFS over the last couple of years here at IBT. We took home a dub finally in DraftKings this last week. It was only a 367-man tournament, but we took it down. Number 1, baby. Ross Chastain leading the way. And it's just a couple of those things that we've been talking about all season. Like right now, the pricing is not out. So we cannot go through and tell you specifically who we're taking at the pricing. If you want to learn more, join the in-between community. I put my lineups in there every single week, so you can do that. But, guys, stack the back. Like last week when I took home that W, it was specifically because I had no one who was starting in the top 10. And you're getting those differential points in DraftKings and FanDuel, whatever format you're playing on. So keep that in mind. And calculate your dart throws. Like I saw Eric Jones last week had a pretty good running at COTA before. He's been decent at some of these tracks, and he was my dart throw, and he paid off. Michael McDowell was another one I knew who had some success at these tracks as well. So that was my dart throw. So, calculate those dart throws based on history, recent running order in recent races, and stack the back, man. So those are my general points before we go into people we like for the week. Rod, any other thoughts on just like general strategy here for the upcoming short tracks in DFS?
So what we're seeing too at some of these short tracks, especially the last few races too, is that you got to figure out who you think is going to lead this race, because most of the leaders have led over 150 laps, 160 laps. That's a lot of points to miss out on if you don't have that leader. So look, I hate to say it, guys like Denny Hamlin, guys like Martin Truex, especially this week, those guys have led some serious laps. So when you calculate your dart throws, yes, but also make sure that you account for the fact that one of those two guys is probably going to lead you a lot of laps. So unless you're building just one lineup, you could probably have two lineups with each of those guys in your lineups, because one of those two is probably going to win or lead a lot of laps. And you can even throw a Kyle Busch lineup in there as well too, because Seth, you touched on it too. Kyle Busch has done some great things in this track as well. So, understand that there's a lot of laps to lead at these short tracks. So you want to make sure that you can load up on the guy that's going to be in front for most of them. Even if it's not a guy that starts in the front row, make sure that you know the guys that have led a lot of laps around these tracks.
100%, Rod. I love that. Want to go to Jake and Parv here. Guys, I knew you specifically told me some of the guys you think who could get some W's here, but outside of Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex, who are some of the other top dogs that you might be targeting in DFS formats? Again, we know this is going to depend on qualifying order, but let's say any of these, top drivers fall outside the top 10. Who are you going to be targeting?
There's 3 drivers that have been really consistent this year. You throw everybody else out the window. It's the guy who just won COTA. It's Ross Chastain. And then it's Tyler Reddick. And then it's the third guy. I forgot. Alex Bowman. That's who I was thinking of. Bowman. These 3 guys have just been absolutely crazy. But I do think Joey Logano would be kind of a crazy one to throw at, just because he hasn't had that success yet. And it would be kind of cool to come out on top if you did pick the 22.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Jacob with Ross Chastain. It's hard not to bet on him right now with how consistent he's been. I'm not sure how expensive he's going to be because of how consistent he's been.
Mm-hmm. That's the problem you run into. His price is going to be so far up. Is it going to be worth the value?
Yeah. But I want to go also with the other Trackhouse guy. I think maybe Daniel Suarez might be someone to watch out for these next 2 weeks. And I think, and maybe even though I gave him crap, putting him on the top tier on this tier list, I think also you just might have to watch it for Kyle Larson. He has a win. I think he has a win in Richmond. Or is either Richmond or Martinsville? I think so. You better watch out for him.
Richmond, yeah. He won so many damn races last year. We can't keep them all straight.
So the person I think to put to watch out for the most, for me in my opinion, is Daniel Suarez.
That 99 car. Hey, that's my brother popping up, by the way. Hi, Nick.
What's up, Nick?
Yeah, thanks, Nick, and thanks everyone for your comments. It's certainly fun to watch the interaction here.
Reddick is fun. I'll call one out real quick, and that's Christopher Bell. He's actually done pretty good at Richmond to date, back-to-back top 4 finishes even on Richmond's track. So if there's a dark horse in there from last season, maybe that 20 car will sneak up and do some things. Not the greatest of seasons so far this season for poor Bell. But we talk about get right tracks, and I think this might be a get right track for Bell.
He's had a lot of Xfinity success there too. I remember one particular race in 2018. He passed a guy named Dale Earnhardt Jr. for the lead to win that one. And being the young gun at Joe Gibbs Racing could really help him out too. We've been talking about young drivers with the success. He's the young buck there that could help him out. Yeah.
A couple guys I'm going to be targeting this week as well. I'm going with the post-hype sleeper, Chase Elliott. We know he was 50% plus rostered at DraftKings last week. So pretty much every lineup had him, rightfully so. He finished top 5. I'm going with him again. He has an average starting position of 11. So you can get a little bit of differential points there, but he has 2 top 5s in his last 5 races here at Richmond. So I do like what I'm seeing from Chase Elliott. He's had a couple of consistent races now in the top 5. And then I do like that call by Parv for Daniel Suarez as well. He has 3 career top 10s here. And for Daniel Suarez, who hasn't raced a ton of Cup yet, that's pretty impressive. 3's an impressive number. He's been hot lately. So, Parv, I like that call, man.
It's the water.
Shout out to the Aquafina, keeping him on track here.
Yes,
all right,
sir.
if we don't have anything else with DFS, we'll move on to our final segment of the evening, our Backroad advice and Backroad stories to round it out. As always, here at In Between Media, we don't want to just focus on the numbers and the stats. We want to focus on the human element of things too. So this week's Backroad Stories topic, your most memorable race as a fan. We'll throw it out here to whoever wants to start. I know I've got mine in mind. I'm excited to hear what you guys have got.
Okay, I will go with mine first because I think Jacob probably knows what I'm going to tell this story. So
yeah, I watched Parv get bullied for like 6 hours.
So this is fall. So it was fall 2019 Bristol. This is the night race, obviously, and this is Matty D when Matty D was actually light, and he was trying.
Yeah.
He was basically
Matty D took his heel turn.
Yeah, it was the week before he found out that he had no ride next year because his team was going under, and then he basically rode his ass off the whole entire time and almost won the race, but didn't have one. But the thing that happened was memorable was not that. It was what happened after the fact of the race, because I wore a Kyle Busch hat the whole entire race, and everybody around me was just saying, fuck you, fuck Kyle Busch, and everything. Like, they were just like going at me. And then I remember leaving the race, I heard a girl just chanting, fuck Kyle Busch, fuck Kyle Busch. And then we made little eye contact with each other. She says, sorry about your luck. Turned down and just danced Francis off. It was the funniest moment that has ever happened on the race.
Yeah.
Remember, it was Bristol where one of the best quotes about Kyle Busch was said by Brad Keselowski. Kyle Busch is an ass.
Parv wore it. Doesn't help that Kyle Busch's gear is like bright ass yellow. You know what I mean? That doesn't help. So it was easy to pinpoint out, but Parv didn't even make it 5 steps out of the car before somebody was just giving him shit. And it was the greatest moment of my life because I hate his guts. And for me, it used to be, you brought up Watkins Glen earlier, Elliot. That race in 2012 between Kyle Busch and Brad, and then it turned out to be the battle between Marcos and Brad at the end. That used to be my favorite finish of all time, and I was watching it on TV, and I thought that was the craziest. But my new favorite, I gotta say this one, man.
Yes, sir.
The Xfinity Series night Bristol race last year between
that was great.
Cindric and Dinger. I was at the start-finish line when that happened. Wow. It was the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen the grandstands go that crazy over a finish. Everybody jumped up out of their seats. I literally could see Cindric's hands turn right to wreck into Almadine. It was like the best moment of my life. We hung out with some Chicagoan people before that. That was their first Bristol race, and they gave us some liquor, and I'm almost positive that they put ecstasy in it. My ass the whole time, man. But definitely my favorite. Definitely.
I mean, I guess for good reason, right?
Yeah, even without all the fun racing wise, that one was one of the craziest. That one will be remembered forever for sure.
I'll take next. I have a couple. Just one real quick. Is it the first one that I ever watched? I was never really a NASCAR fan. I would always jump on the bandwagon and making fun of it. Oh yeah, all a bunch of left turns until my brother finally sat me down and said, look, you have to watch this with me. It's Daytona. It's 2003. And then I remember watching that race going, what the hell am I watching? This is awesome. That was the rain shortened race that Michael Waltrip ended up winning in the end. And then from then on, I had to pick a driver. It was Jimmy Johnson. So my next favorite memory was watching him watch the first. And then my second was the second championship. And then my third, the fourth. I'm sorry. So watching him win.
Rub it in a little bit, huh?
But my favorite as a fan actually in the stands was the only race that I was at was Sonoma. But boy, just everything about being at a NASCAR event, being back in the garage area, being back, getting a chance to like see these guys, shake their hands, talk to them in the pits and watch Michael Jordan walk by. There's just something that NASCAR does so special at those events that, you know, if you can make it there as a fan and make it there as a media member, it's like you're hooked for life.
That's awesome. I would probably have to say for myself, always been a big Jeff guy, and like I there was a lot of memorable wins for Jeff over the years, but I was pretty young, and like I'm honestly gonna say, like, I will never forget where I was, who I was with over this past weekend to like the trials and tribulations that came with this Ross Chastain win, man. And just all the even down to the post race interview, man. I mean, the smashing of the melon, him just scarfing it down. I will never forget that. So I was just thankful to, be a little bit of a part of it, had a little bit of skin in the game in DFS, and just, we've been talking up Ross Chastain for so long on the show, Elliot. Just thankful for that, man. I have to honestly say, probably the most memorable race I've honestly ever been a part of.
Did you guys notice at one point he had a watermelon seed stuck in his beard?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He went full Gallagher, man. He was just like, let's go. Everybody
Yeah.
in the front row was getting all sorts of juiced up.
Mm-hmm.
No
Yeah, so you
pun.
Seth, you mentioned with Gordon that you were just too young to see a lot of his biggest moments. And that was kind of what I ran into, too, with Dale Earnhardt Jr. His best years were back when I was, in elementary school and not really paying attention. But we'll take you to my most memorable race. Go back to 2012, the summer. 14-year-old Elliot Hicks here, middle school, whatever it would have been. The entire summer calendar revolving around the NASCAR calendar. My guy, it had been 4 years since he'd won a race. And I'm there watching every weekend, suffering all the trials and tribulations of 2011 Coke 600, all that stuff. And we get to Michigan, Father's Day weekend 2012. Not only is he at the track he won at 4 years ago, he's in a freaking Batman car with a car he designed, and he goes out there and he wins the race. My most memorable race for sure. I'll be honest, 14-year-old me, I was crying when he crossed that finish line. It was so great for him to end that winless streak, win in the coolest car out there, the baddest car out there. And that really began a little bit of a career renaissance. He got a few more wins. So luckily I did get a little bit of good moments with the Dale Earnhardt Jr. fandom before he left. That one forever, most memorable moment for me. Certainly a lot of fun. That was really cool to hear everybody's stories. So before we round it out here, we'll go around and get the plugs in. JKL and Parv down there, give us some stuff going on with Left Turn Cult coming around the bend here.
Man, it's been a rocky ride so far. No, it's been a good year so far, man. I mean, a lot more publicity with the show and everything, and I'm gonna actually just compliment the shit out of you guys. Your show is super airtight, and I think that's something that we struggle with. And you guys compact so much good material, in the time that you guys do your show. So you guys got a hell of a thing going here, honestly.
We usually have three. Our show only has usually 3 topics the entire time. Is trucks, Xfinity, Cup Series. That takes us literally 2 hours to do, and you guys have had 4 or 5 segments in under an hour. It's incredible.
You guys are the most, and this is a compliment. You guys are the most I'm trying to think of the word. I can't think of it. Damn it! You guys are the most structured podcast I've ever seen.
So
which
organized,
which is cool as hell.
Appreciate that.
Most of us are ADHD filled sons of bitches.
we have 2 to 3 topics we talk about, but halfway through that one topic, we just go off on a tangent about something else completely outside of NASCAR. Yeah,
but as far as us, join the Discord. The Left Turn Cult Discord. It's a Discord for fans to come in and talk about the races, to get some interaction going. You can talk a little smack. You can make some friends. It's a cool place. It's growing.
There's a weekly rant session about Roush's back every single week. Usually,
they are though. You're wrong, man. But yeah, we definitely got some stuff in the books that we can't discuss right now. But
no big J journalism for us tonight, folks. No big.
Yeah, I can't drop it here yet, but look forward to that.
That's right. Yeah, we really appreciate the sentiment, and this was fun. You guys are certainly welcome anytime on the Backroad here. Rod, you're always doing a whole bunch of stuff. Let's hear what you got coming down the pipe.
Oh my God, you got another hour? No, I'm just kidding. Definitely follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagmomez for all of the stuff I've got going on. I write NASCAR articles, betting articles for Sportsbook Review. I've got the NASCAR Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network that drops every Wednesday night. Just a spoiler alert, 40-1. My boy Cody picked Chastain to win. That was a huge win for him last week. But I will say I had AJ Allmendinger to win the Xfinity race. That was my call. So damn it all if I didn't get a win or two this weekend. So making people some money over there. And of course, like I said, just find all of my stuff over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And of course, on the back road with you boys, because I love hanging out with you and talking NASCAR on a Tuesday night.
Always love having you for sure, Rod. Seth, in between media, there's always fun stuff going on here, I know.
Yeah, first shout out to our guys from LTC. You know, we might be structured, we might have some graphics and some drops, but you guys have character and you have flair. So keep doing what you're doing over there at LTC. Make sure you guys are following them on Twitter, subscribing on YouTube. They are my NASCAR go-to outside of this show and Rod's show. So make sure you're checking them out, guys. Here at IBT Media, you guys know what we're about. We're about feel-good lifestyle advice as well as fantasy sports advice, whether that's NASCAR here, whether that's fantasy football, fantasy golf, UFC, you name it, guys. We're going to be here all season long for NASCAR. Make sure you're following us at IBT_media. The easiest way to support the show, support what we're doing here as a startup company here, is hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That really goes a long way for us. If you want to chat more with us, we also have a Discord as well. We have a community, the IBT family. You can hop in with us. We're going to give you a little bit of a laugh, a little bit of occasionally good DFS picks. So follow along with us there. And then just shout out to Elliot and Rod, man. Appreciate you guys holding it down here. Always dropping your NASCAR wisdom here on the back road, man.
Dropping something.
Dropping something. We'll see what it is when we revisit in 2 weeks' time. Well, thanks again, everyone, for rolling on down the back road with us for another week. We'll see you next time. Best of luck to y'all. Thanks again for watching. Have a good night.
Thanks, y'all.